Hi, I'm going to make some trees using Woodland Scenics Realistic Tree Kit. The kit comes with 3 different colors of clump foliage, and it says it has 36 various sizes of tree armatures. I'm going to show you how I use their kit. Woodland Scenics does have a YouTube tutorial on using this particular kit, but I think it's a little simplistic, and if you take just a few extra minutes, you can make yourself a fairly decent tree, almost as good as the ones that you can build from scratch. So let me set this aside and show you how I make a Woodland Scenics tree. The armature comes flattened out with an attached base. Now, the way it's intended for this particular tree to be assembled is to glue this down and stick this in here like that, but I don't think much of that base, so I'm going to discard that and cut off that little peg, and then I'm going to take a pin and I'm going to cut the head from the pin. That. Right, and see, I will probably need something to hold this armature for me, so I'll get my little helping hand here, put this down like that. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is my little vice grips here and hold on to this, clip it onto this pin, and I've got my torch. I say I bought this at Harbor Freight for $6. Turn it on like this and light it. A match won't get it hot enough. So you want to get it red hot and then press it down quickly into the base. Hold it until it dries, which doesn't take long. And then you have a base that sticks into your foam, or you can drill a hole into wood and put it through the wood, or it could also go through plaster. So let's move this out of my way, and the next step is to bend the armatures so that they're no longer flat. Okay. Now, as you see, this is all one flat color. Let's see, here's a little spot that you get sometimes on these trees. It's a little round piece that, of course, wouldn't be on a tree unless you hung a target up there or something. So I'll cut that off too. But of course, the tree is a uniform color, and if you make this kit, if you make trees from this kit, they're all going to be exactly the same color unless you paint them. So I've got what I've got here. Nope. So good. I'm going to use this dark tan by Testers. I'm using, and this is a rust color. They're acrylic paints. And just dip it in there and splash it on. I'm not trying to do anything except break up the uniform color. That's the whole purpose of this. I'm not trying to paint this tree a different color. There's nothing wrong with the dark brown, it's just that we need a little more color than just dark brown. So I'll just splash this on. And then we'll take a little rust color. Rust is a nice reddish brown. Now this one I probably want to dry brush it a little, take some of the paint off, as we don't want too much of this rust color. This is not a red tree, but it does give it some nice highlights. Okay, just like that. Now, here's a similar tree that I've already painted, and it's nice and dry. It doesn't take the acrylic long to dry. If you're doing 10 trees, by the time you finish painting the 10th one, the first one will be dry and ready to go. So I'll clean my brush. And we're ready for the clump foliage. To attach the clump foliage to my armature, I use goop. Goop is very thick. That's why it's good for this. I can put it on both sides. It doesn't run down the tree branch. It stays in place. It's very sticky. It dries clear and it dries flexible. It will, however, melt your foam, so don't use it to try to attach things to foam. You'd have to have plaster or some kind of ground cover over it. Goop is good for using where you need a lot of glue. I've often put it to the undercarriage of automobiles. Rather than trying to put glue on the wheels that turn, I just put it on the undercarriage and stick it down onto the road. So I'll spread the goop on here, spread it on the other side. I just do one branch at a time. It's less messy that way, but as you can see, the goop will not fall off the tree. Now I'm going to take some of this dark clump foliage and start applying it. Just stick it right into the glue. Turn it over. Go to the other side. Just jam it in. It's not necessary to cover every branch. It just depends on how you want it to be done. It's okay for the branches to show through. As a matter of fact, that will make it look more like a tree. Okay, got that one done. And we'll stick this here and do another branch. Now in Woodland Scenics kit, the bigger the tree, the more branches there are. One of the reasons I'm building these trees for an HO layout, I personally model in N scale. I need a little more glue on this back side here. I personally model in N scale, so this would be a huge tree. I need my trees much smaller, and that's why I make my trees from scratch. But if you're in HO or larger scales, Woodland Scenics kit of realistic trees is fairly decent, and they're not particularly expensive. Certainly less expensive than buying the trees already done. And as you can see, it's not really hard. So I will continue placing the clump foliage on this armature. Okay, I've finished attaching the foliage, and it's splayed out a little bit here. You look at the tree and decide what you want. I think I want to push these together a little bit like that. Okay, yeah, I think that looks a little bit better. Now, if you want more foliage in here, you can add glue and stick the foliage in. I personally think it looks a little better this way. So I'm going to have that tree, and I'm not going to have the layout that this is going on is not going to have another tree like it. If you want to add some highlights to the color, I'll show you how to do that. Alright, I've got a cheap can of hairspray bought at the dollar store, and I've got a mixture of fine ground cover. This is yellow grass and a little light green and some earth blend. And what I'm going to do is spray this. By the way, this will also help keep your foliage on, because the hairspray acts like glue, so it will help keep it together. And then, using my spoon, as soon as I grab it from my drawer here, we'll just sprinkle from high so it spreads nicely. Okay, and bust those off. I'll put this back on my sud base here, and there we have a nice little tree. And as I said, if you make Woodland Scenics realistic trees this way, every tree will be different. And that's the way they are realistically. I hope this was helpful to you, and I'll see you next time with how to make trees from scratch. Really short trees for you N-scalers out there.